Ahoy, Buccaneers and Buccarinas, and look at it! Look at it all! Oh, yes! We got it! We got the whole thing! It's all of the Plunder Patrols! Okay, anyways, that's enough celebrating. I don't wanna damage the sleeves. Ahoy, Buccaneers and Buccarinas! My name is Captain Yugioh, and welcome back! Because, well, now I get to finally talk about Plunder Patrols, and it's exciting because, well, I mean, it's not like I haven't talked about them before, but, you know, I get to do more of an in-depth kind of thing, and I feel like this was something of an idea that I think would be really helpful for people who are looking to build the Plunder Patrol deck here in its infancy, or even just preparing for, you know, future support that we're going to get in Eternity Code that we have no idea what it's gonna be. It's 3 months down the road. There's just nothing to worry about with regards to that. But hey, before anything else, if you really like what you see, don't forget to like the video, comment about it down below, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to check out some of my other vids, there's stuff that's on Overwatch, that's on every Tuesdays, the Hearthstone vids are on every Thursday, which is currently going through a series where I just lose my mind gradually over heroic bosses because those are really, really tough, apparently. But hey, let's get to the Friday vid. Today's vid, Yugioh. For those of you who don't know, Plunder Patrols are a pirate-themed, fiend-typed archetype that basically the entire strategy is devoted to just cheating out these extra deck monsters. So you get like these little cool ships like Bran and Mawerk, and you got stuff like Blackbeard that can help you out, but mainly the main deck stuff is in Whitebeard and Redbeard. And you've got Shipyard, which is basically for searching things out, and Booty, which is the best card to pronounce in the entire set. That's it, that's it. And forget every other card. Sell off every other card you have, apparently they're also the most difficult to pronounce as it turns. Let's talk about what all you can do to maximize your Plunder Patrol experience early on, since we only have so many cards. We only have, what, if you max out on every copy you possibly can, which at this point in time, the core is actually pretty well priced, honestly, considering a new archetype of high rarity. I mean, the secrets are what? I think the last time I checked, the secrets were like $5–6 a piece. You don't even need to go with like a bunch of them, but you can if you're like me and you're insane. Pretty much, I feel like this is the best thing to do, is to kind of go down like a little checklist. Pretty much you can use this for Plunder Patrols, but I also like to think that the technique is applicable to any archetype you want to try and build a deck around. And I think that's pretty much where you want to look, you know? Now, obviously this is going to be a very early build. You know, I'm not going to showcase a deck list, unfortunately, because I just don't. Even my current testing on what is Plunder Patrol Time Thieves is iffy at best, but that's okay because like this is the fun times in an archetype's life where it's just like you get to experiment with things, you know? There's not really an optimized perfect build of the deck just yet, but feel free to, like, you know, throw some things around. But I always like to think of going through like a little checklist of things, of just like, okay, what are the things that I can check on that can work with this archetype potentially, and then can I utilize that effectively in a deck with this archetype involved? So, usually the first things I want to look at, whenever you've run into any new archetype, you want to check for things like the levels of the monsters, or the ranks in the case of Xyz monsters, or even in the links, you know, there may be some importance to the number of link arrows there are if there's a link monster. You also want to check on the type, and you want to check on the attributes, and you want to do that for every single monster you've got, because that is one of your first bits of synergy that you could possibly throw into the archetype. So with Plunder Patrols, well, the entire archetype is fiend-based. So there's a lot of Fiend-based support you can throw at them. There's some stuff in Archfiends. The Unchained monsters have a entire support system more or less towards destroying their own things, but also will lock you into Fiends, so they kind of play around with that sort of thing. Probably the best example for modern day is I think of usually with like Fiend-based monsters. Okay, Dark Necrofear. Dark Necrofear is basically a monster that's level 8, 2200 attack, 2800 defense. You banish 3 Fiend monsters, and then it comes to the field. Well, that doesn't sound like it synergizes with Fiends, per se, in the same sense that, you know, something like, I don't know, Yami, Field Spell works with Fiend monsters. But it's something that has a little bit of synergy because, well, if your Plunder Patrols end up in your graveyard, you banish them, you bring out Dark Necrofear. Well, Dark Necrofear, when it goes to the graveyard because it's destroyed, it gets to equip itself onto an opponent's monster, and then it takes control of that monster. And then you can use something like Blackbeard to make that monster equipped onto a Plunder Patrol ship monster, which gets rid of your Dark Necrofear, but also at the same time, it gets you that little cheat that Blackbeard is particularly good at. And let me tell you, I will get more into that later on, because trust me, that's not the most broken thing you can do with that. But in any case, Dark Necrofear is a potential option, and if you're going to run Dark Necrofear, you might as well run, well, Curse Necrofear, because if you're going to banish stuff and put it in the banish zone, well, you might as well have something that puts it back. Not to mention, Curse Necrofear actually has a little bit of synergy within the Plunder Patrol archetype as well, because when it gets destroyed, it can special summon itself back to the field, and then it destroys cards based on the number of face-up spells and traps that you control. Well, that can include things like your shipyard and your booty, but it can also include your Plunder Patrol monsters that are equipped to your Plunder Patrol ships, since they are technically equipped spells. Worst case, you bring Curse Necrofear back, and you're popping at least 2 cards because you've got your shipyard and you've got your booty. So that's an idea for the deck. Another aspect, of course, is the attribute, and of course, water has a lot of different synergies here and there. Now, I'm looking mainly towards water because the extra deck monsters, while they are accessible, certainly within the deck, and there are certainly different ways to make access to multiple attributes, it's something that really helps out with constructing the main deck, because if you're able to get your main deck monsters out, well, it really helps. The card that came to mind first for me when it came to water monsters, especially level 4 or lower water monsters, was Water Hazard, which is basically, it acts like a Valhalla for the deck. So when you basically have a level 4 or lower water monster in your hand, and you have Water Hazard, bada bing, bada boom, you got a free special summon. That's easy. That's so easy, right? So, Water Hazard's a good option for that. White Stingray has been brought up as an option since that's a level 4, and it discards, which has a little extra synergies, which we'll get into. There's also Silent Angler is another idea, which pretty much just summons itself in the hand if you have control a water monster. The only problem with Silent Angler is that you're not allowed to special summon from your hand after that, but Plunder Patrols, as they are currently built right now, don't really have to rely on that, since, you know, Booty can special summon from the grave, or it just shuffles it back into the deck, and Whitebeard, well, Whitebeard it summons from the deck, that's not a problem. And Blackbeard doesn't have that problem, since it's special summoning extra deck monsters, same with Whitebeard and Redbeard on the field. So, that's some of the stuff that you can look at and find little bits of synergy with. Another idea for Fiend monsters is actually kind of an interesting one, Wandering King Wild Wind. This one's a little bit out there because it's a free special summon body as long as you play Whitebeard. Basically, you play normal summon your Whitebeard, and then if you've got Wild Wind in hand, you can special summon it because you control a Fiend-type tuner monster with 1500 or less attack. The only problem is that then you're locked into synchro summoning for the rest of the turn, which, you know, that puts a damper on, say, summoning out Blackbeard, but at the same time, it doesn't really restrict you from going into your extra deck during your opponent's turn, so it's these little kind of workarounds that end up working in your favor to some degree. Then you gotta go to the level most of the time. And level 4 is a very universally supported level. It's probably the most well-supported level in the game, much like Warriors and Type and Dark and Attribute. Hence why Dark Warrior is so good, right? So, level 4, you can pretty much with level 4, it's basically swarming the field with level 4 monsters. And there are a few ways of doing this. Goblinberg is usually what I imagine a lot of people think of. Normal summon Goblinberg, goes to the defense mode, and you play another level 4 monster from your hand. Bada bing, bada boom, you just got a Link 2 monster, you got a level 8 Synchro, you got a rank 4 Xyz monster. Kage Tokage also works pretty well for that rank 4 Xyz play, where if you normal summon a Plunder Patrol monster, well then boom, Kage Tokage. It can't be used as Synchro material, but it can be used as Link material and Xyz material. So that's the trick on that one. So Kage Tokage again, another Link 2 monster, basically, right in the bag. There's other things you can figure out with regards to level 4s as well, specifically rank 4 monsters, and there are a plethora of really good rank 4 monsters that you can work with. Just to name a couple off the bat, you got Castell, Baguska, Number 101, Silent Honor Arc, you've got, there's so many of these other ones, sure, it's just, I can't even begin to think about the potential. The one you might want to keep an eye on, actually, would be Bahamut Shark. And Bahamut Shark is a really nice means of getting into Totally Awesome, which gives you access to a negate in the deck. I mean, once Master of Force Revision comes through, this guy becomes really, really good. And I mean, that's probably why he's a $20 card right now. Wink, wink, you might want to grab it pretty soon here, before it goes above to 25 or something. After that, the next little bits of looking for any sort of synergies usually comes down to the effects of the monsters. Well, you look at something like Whitebeard and Redbeard, these are the main deck monsters that you're going to have some level of access to. Most of the time, these are the ones that are going to give you access to your extra deck monsters. And the main way that they get some of their effects off is that they can be discarded or they can be sent from the monster zone to the graveyard. Well, sending from the monster zone to the graveyard is not that difficult, but just as a couple of ideas, you could be running Dragonic Diagram if you want to run a True Draco kind of build. You could run Zodiacs to throw in the Thoroughblade, which can give you more access to rank 4 plays. There's also Metaphos, which gives you access to Metaphos Fusion, and it allows you, if you get the extra deck space for it, you can access some fusion monsters, which make for great super poly targets. Which super poly, in and of itself, also can help trigger the Plunder Patrol monsters. You discard it for the cost, you fusion summon the monster since your opponent can't do anything, you can't do anything either because it's super poly, but at the end of it, you get out a break fusion monster and then suddenly, Whitebeard, just summon something from the deck. Or Redbeard, you equip to another Plunder Patrol monster that you have at this point. Assuming you haven't used it as fusion material for something like that. But that's the idea, you can use this in a way that effectively benefits the deck. Most people, when they think of discarding, they think of Dark Worlds. And Dark Worlds are... they're okay, they're a pretty decent option, but unlike Plunder Patrols and some other different discard synergy options, Dark Worlds don't always get their effects going off, just because of some of the phrasing on some of these. Mostly this comes down to semantics of problem-solving card text, if versus when, you know. I'd love to get into it, but just know that, for now, Dark World is not necessarily the absolute best option. Contrary to that, you've got Fables as another option, which when they get discarded, will usually get their effects. There's not really a Fabled monster that doesn't get their effects off in this regard. But, of course, a more recent example of discard synergy comes from Dangers, and that's a pretty... that's just a standard deck idea of just, hey, I reveal a card from my hand, and then you gotta pick a random card, and if it's not that revealed card, I get to special summon it and draw a card. And if you discard a Plunder Patrol, suddenly I get some discarded synergies with that in mind. So Dangers look like a pretty good one to go with going forward. Now, I did mention there are some other partial synergies that you can work with, and this comes down to looking at the extra deck monsters. Now, obviously, when they get equipped, you could run some equipped things like Release Restraint Wave. I think Collective Power is a really odd example, but if say you got a Plunder Patrol monster that got properly summoned, like Bran, or more likely Moerk. Well, if you use Collective Power, bam, suddenly if you have a cheated out brand with an equipped Plunder Patrol monster and a Moerk without one of those, you use the effect of your brand, you use Collective Power, you put that effect that equipped monster over onto Moerk, and then suddenly Moerk can use this quick effect. I just came up with that off the top of my head. I don't know where that came from. That doesn't sound like a great strategy, all things considered, because it's just like, I don't know how you'd get the collected power, but that's a crazy thought that just came out of nowhere. Cool! So, there's other ways that you can work with this deck. Now, the other part of the main deck monsters is that they have the ability to summon the extra deck monsters based on the attributes of your opponent's monsters. And presumably, as we get more support for Plunder Patrols, we're gonna get more stuff that has, well, more attributes. Right now, we only have Dark and Fire covered. Well, one good set of synergies to work with, in particular on the Fire aspect, and in general, you can work this out over the course of any attributes, is I like to think of, yeah, I'm gonna say Lava Golem. Lava Golem's a great monster. Can you believe that? Well, in a particular format, when you're trying to get up over a bunch of monsters, Lava Golem is always a great answer. I mean, what board usually doesn't have at least 2 monsters on it? I mean, Altergeist probably is the big answer to that one, but even they can, like, potentially put down a Hextia and a Meliseek, or a Hextia and usually a Multi-Faker. Or, heck, they'll activate a Trap, bring out the Multi-Faker, bring out another Altergeist monster. Suddenly they have 2 monsters. That's a nice pair of monsters you got there. It would be a shame if they suddenly turned into lava. But yeah, Lava Golem is actually a pretty strong monster in the right context, and especially in the right matchup. And the best part about Lava Golem is that it's a level 8 Fire attribute, Fiend type monster. And now, why do I bring up the level 8 Fiend type? Well, there's a card out there called Dark Spirit's Mastery, which lets you search up not only a Destiny board if you really want to play that deck, but it also can search for any level 8 Fiend type monster. And this is really good because, well, it's got some synergies with the Unchained stuff, and it also has some synergies with the Necrofear stuff, but most importantly of all, it gets you your access to your Lava Golem, which Lava Golem, in turn, also basically gives you access to Bran as long as you put a Plunder Patrol on the field. Which, you know how easy it is to get a Plunder Patrol monster? You discard Whitebeard for your Dark Spirit's Mastery, add your Lava Golem, Whitebeard goes to Redbeard, and suddenly, you don't even need a normal summon. That's crazy. Now, obviously, if you're trying to save the normal summon for a Plunder Patrol monster, another good set of monsters that can work with this are the Kaijus. And Kaijus are probably fan favorite, competitive, meta-defining cards in their own right. Mostly Gamachiel because it's ironically the weakest of them all. Who would have guessed that would be the case? But the great thing about the Kaiju monsters is that they have a range of attributes among them. You have Doggeron with the fire attributes, Gamachiel with Gamachia. I don't know how do you pronounce sea turtle? The sea turtle one, the one that's blue, the one that lives in the ocean. Is there another one that lives in the ocean?
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine, and you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Nope, okay, yeah, no, it's just Gamachiel. Gamasiel? That one. You know the one, the blue one, the really blue one. That's the one. So, you got that one as your water attribute, and then for your dark attribute, you actually have access to Radiant. Who's not particularly popular in any sense of the word, but he's an option. Then, of course, as we go forward with more future support, you've got your light attributes with things like Chizukiru and Thunder King. You've got wind with, I think, Gadarla? I think it's Gadarla, if I remember right. And then, of course, you've got Kumungus, the sticky spider kaiju, for your earth attributes. So, going forward, kaijus may be really nice. And that gives you access to probably one of the best board wipes in the game, Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. So there you go. In any case, these are just a few little ideas of just trying to work around with some of the different aspects. Oh, another thing. Another big part of this deck is also the ability to put stuff from your graveyard back into your deck. Booty kind of actually, points this out a little bit, especially if you're going to be cheating out your extra deck monsters, and you don't have that many extra deck monsters because, let's be honest, you're going to fill up that 15 card space pretty quickly with one thing or another. But if you're improperly summoning them using the Plunder Patrol monster's effects, basically you won't be able to special summon them back from the graveyard. So the best thing is to recycle them. And for that, there's options like Yugioh Emerald, or Pot of Avarice, which recently came off the banned list, to 1 copy, because we don't want to break that. But that's good, and that's the thing. I just kind of realized, I think that's why they kind of pushed Pot of Avarice off of the list. Konami, you sneaky sea serpent. But yeah, that's just some of the little synergies that kind of come with it. I've mentioned before about Blackbeard, how there's some effect monster. I mean, since Blackbeard can hit any effect monster and equip that onto a patrol ship, well, I mean, there's certainly some very broken things you can do with that. In particular, the one that comes to mind is actually using the Dragon Buster Whelp. It's this little tiny level 1 dragon that you can access with 1-for-1. But if you play that with Blackbeard on board, and you equip that onto a patrol ship, well, now your opponent can't special summon monsters from the extra deck. That could be a GG right there. I know. You thought I was kidding when I said there wasn't something more broken out there than just dark Necro-Fury things. Which, to be fair, the next logical part of that is just going into mind control, crackdown, anything that can take control of your opponent's monster, put it on your field, and then use Blackbeard's effect to equip it onto a patrol ship so they don't get it back. Borreload Dragon even would work in that regard. Because remember, Blackbeard is a quick effect. Ain't that some nonsense? Never mind that you get to draw a card at the end of all that, so things to consider. But that's pretty much how it is. So remember so just kind of like as a little general reminder, the things you want to look out for first are level, attribute, and type. So you can find out the little synergies that go with that. And with 10,000 cards that have been printed out over the course of the game, you're bound to find at least 1 or 2 good ones. Beyond that, it's just looking at the effects and finding some synergies with that. So if they have a discard, if they're able to get their effect off of a discard, well then look for discard synergies, whether that's cards that discard or other cards that can benefit from being discarded, like Dark Worlds and Dangers. If they have the ability to equip things onto themselves, look for things that work with equipped cards and the like. If they have all this sort of stuff that puts stuff into the graveyard, well then, do you want to add more things that put stuff into the graveyard, or do you want to have the ability to recycle things? It's these little synergies that'll help you build these different archetypes and optimize them for different builds. Beyond that, it's just throwing in various staple cards, building up a side deck to counteract the meta. You know, easy stuff that any beginner could do. I could do it. You could do it. She could do it. We could do it. Victini. Little Victini could do it. Probably, if he wasn't a statue. Or a Pokemon in a completely different game. But that's pretty much all I gotta say about that. Feel free to let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoy the content. If you want to subscribe for more, absolutely. Remember, I do Overwatch on Tuesdays, Hearthstone on Thursdays, and Fridays is Yu-Gi-Oh days. And yeah, I think that's kind of about it. I am just going to have some personal Yugioh time with the Plunder Patrols, especially with the booty. Personal time is just admiring the cards. Just to be clear, just admiring the artwork. They have great artwork. Obviously, you know.